the real story behind the supply or non-supply of U.S. armaments to Israel? What
Right.
actually has been going on? For how long has
What
it been going on? And what is the aim of this policy?
approximately 50% of the equipment that we requested or was promised by the United States um, has been withheld from us. That's the rough number, about 50%. Now, just recently, there was a vote, or not a vote, but there was a hold lifted by two Jewish senators in the United States Senate, holding up an agreement for the sale of 50 new variants of the F-15, which is a remarkable airplane. And shortly after, the Biden administration was really pushing them to lift their hold on this aircraft, and they finally did. But no sooner had they lifted it than there was a dispute with Israel, well, basically with Bibi, over Bibi's truthful statements that the United States was withholding a great amount of military equipment from us. And then suddenly these airplanes were not in the pipeline. Now, they wouldn't be delivered for several years, but usually when the Senate lifts a hold or authorizes the sale or transfer of military equipment, within 24 to 72 hours, the administration submits documentation, basically tying up all loose ends. And at that point, the sale can go forward or the transfer can go forward. Well, what the Biden administration is doing right now is it's like a pocket veto of taking a document and putting it in your pocket and saying, well, I haven't vetoed it, but I just haven't signed it. And that's basically what's going on with these aircraft and many other military systems that we do need and have been promised. Basically, they're being held up through bureaucratic delays, which under ordinary circumstances could be dispensed with the wave of a hand. Okay,
Actually, my
so
understanding of the system is that such delays, bureaucratic delays, are actually part of the course and quite normal. But when an administration wishes to expedite something, it can simply cut through all of that red tape and make sure that
correct,
it happens pretty much immediately. And they're
correct,
simply choosing not to do that.
correct. And so they say, on the one hand, we haven't vetoed anything. We haven't said Israel couldn't get these things. They've just put either conditions, new conditions on their delivery, or they've just said they're in the bureaucratic labyrinth, and eventually they'll be transferred or and delivered.
It's
This
it's
is
actually very simple.
too
For
cute,
example,
but
one example I heard is that there are all kinds of customs regulations. So again, when there's a political will, those various
correct.
regulations are just overridden.
They're waived.
But
They're
but
waived.
they're
They're
waived. But
yeah,
if they're not, and it's quite deliberate, of course, we're not talking about foolish, incompetent people. They know what they want and they know how to achieve what they want.
correct.
Then they just place a sticker on each crate that this requires customs clearance. So now it takes forever to go through every crate and count the number of screws in each crate, et cetera, et cetera. So it's held up for months.
This is called, in popular parlance, slow walking. And that's what's going on right now. So the Biden administration can quite cynically and deceitfully, I might say, claim that they're not refusing anything. There's just a process that has to be followed. Now, in some cases, they're saying flat out, you can't get something. For example, general purpose bombs, 2,000-pound bombs that the Biden administration has more or less embargoed out of their concern that they might be used improperly, according to them, in Gaza and harm too many civilians. Well, you know what that reminds me of? The objection to machine guns that, well, they kill too many people. and waste too much ammunition. So we should go back to just bolt action rifles. I mean, it's that stupid. I mean, when you have, and by the way, professionally, the professionals in the United States in the military have argued on our behalf that when you have an enemy as embedded in the civilian population as Hamas is, and they built this subterranean fortification system, their subway, so to speak, as we call it, there's only one way to get to them, and that's with a great and mighty bomb, like a 2,000 or 1-ton bomb, basically blowing a building up that's been fortified. And yes, they have, voluntary human shields in there, or having a bomb that can actually reach a tunnel system. Now, I've seen a bombing raid in Gaza which used ground penetrating bombs. Now, these are bombs that are highly, highly accurate, and they make a little hole in the ground and then make a great mighty explosion once they've reached a certain depth. And you can tell they're being used immediately because the explosion doesn't go up and out. It goes straight up because the blast mostly is down below. Well, they don't want to give us those either. Now, why would you want to deny accurate bombs that could limit civilian casualties? Well, we all know why now. They don't want us to win in Gaza. They don't want Hamas. They want Hamas to live for another day. The Biden administration is dead set on defeating our armies in Gaza, and they will be dead set against our armies winning in southern Lebanon as well. So we have to understand that, yes, we might see American transports landing in Ben Gurion. Okay, we might. But they are a very small fraction of what we need and what has been promised. Bear that in mind. When you see one C-17 or a C-5, if they're ever used, coming in to land in Ben Gurion, there should have been 10 or 11 of them coming in. So don't be misled by the optics of having one American transport come in the absence of 10, 12, or maybe 20 more of them. So that's the main point of the reality of what's going on with the Biden administration right now. They're just slow walking us. And that will translate into, if we're not careful, that will translate into Israeli casualties, Jewish casualties, for want of appropriate munitions in Lebanon. It's already happened in Gaza. And I wrote an article basically explaining how we could dispense with these weapons in Gaza in particular by using different types of weapons and weapon systems, whatever. And the army wasn't interested in that. They had thank you and sent it back to me.
Well, they're committed to the code of ethics of our great humanitarian Professor Kasher.
Correct.